Most people don't know what's holding them back, but you do because you listen to me, Sam, your self-care guru and journal junkie. Welcome to Journal Entries, your safe place where you can tune in weekly to get tips, tricks, and journal prompts to uncover your feelings, gain clarity, and make your move. Today's episode is hot off the presses for you. This week, I had a lot of revelations and I had a therapy session, which I haven't had in a while. And it was a lot to process, but I did process it and I journaled about it. And I've had a ton of clarity. And I just truly feel like I need to share it, knowing that this is something that even with the clarity, it's definitely going to be something that I have to practice and continue practicing to get more comfortable with. And I think that that's so much of what journaling is for me, at least. I'm the personality type. I think I mentioned this on a previous episode. I'm a personality type, whichever one is where you need to take time and process. That's why I love journaling, because I get to sit there and think as I put my pen to paper. But then after I gain that clarity and write whatever I write, then you need to put that into practice to see how it plays out. And for me in particular, I've talked about people pleasing, to see that the other person really doesn't care, or they do care, whatever the situation is. And that's when I have my aha moments and oh, I can be me, or, oh, my even bigger clarity. So we're going to talk today about a guy that I'm talking to. So we've been going back and forth, texting, even talking on the phone, and all is going really well. I feel like he's saying all the right things. We align on so much of our values and interests and all the things. And then he says this. I ask him, how do you feel like you spend your money? Are you frugal? Are you a super spender? And he said, oh, I'm very frugal. And he gives examples of how frugal he is. And then he was like, what about you? And my response was, I feel like I'm in between. You know, when I first graduated from college, I was extremely frugal. And then once I started to earn more money, especially while starting my own coaching business and having a full-time job, I just splurged on whatever I wanted, and I loved having that freedom. And now I'm in the middle. But after that conversation and the whole rest of the next day, I just had that feeling in my gut, where it didn't sit right. Do you ever feel that, where someone says something and you're just like, that feels off or wrong or just uncomfortable? And so that night, my sister and I were chatting, and I told her about this. I was like, he said this. He said that he is frugal. And she said, my sister asked me, well, why is that bad? Why is it bad that he's frugal? And do you not want someone who's frugal? And when she asked me this, I couldn't really answer. And because I don't mind if someone is frugal. If anything, I would like to be a little bit more frugal. And so she came to the conclusion of, she was like, oh, so you don't care that he is frugal. You care that he is going to judge you for not being frugal. And my brain was the emoji where the brain exploded. I was like, oh, yes, I care that he will judge me for how I spend my money, which is why my answer, while true, I do feel like I'm in the middle of being frugal and a super spender. So many of my answers in life is that middle road. I always answer politically correct. Like I could go both ways. And it's because I'm afraid of what the other person will think. But then I kept thinking about this, and I kept thinking, well, what else? Is there anything else that I don't necessarily care about him, but that I feel like he would judge me for things? I felt like he would judge me for napping. So I didn't want to make it sound like I napped too much or like I spend too much money. I also, that same night that we were talking that I told you about, I was having a hard cider, and it was a Monday night. And in my brain before the call, I told myself that if he asked me what I was drinking, I was going to tell him that it was a kombucha because it looked like a kombucha. And I didn't want him to judge me for drinking on a Monday, even though for me, it had been a day. I'm a mom, and so I feel like it's a day for all moms every day. And I just didn't mind. It's just something I do. And so I was thinking of like all these things that I was worried that he might judge me for if he knew that I actually did that. And then I was journaling and I wrote down, do I judge myself for those things? And just like my body screamed, yes. And I wrote down in my journal in like the biggest letters possible, yes. So I don't even know if it's that person, let's say this guy, would judge me for those things. It's that I judge myself for them. Because if I were to tell this guy that I was a super spender and he was like, cool, I don't know that I, in the moment, would believe that he would be okay with that, because at the same time, I was judging myself for spending, if that makes sense. So I went to my therapy appointment and we talked about that and how I only want to showcase the parts of me that I perceive to be quote unquote good. And in my eyes, that's things like my work ethic, like my exercise routine, the fact that I like to travel, the fact that I own businesses, and like all of these things that I feel like someone would look at that and be like, oh, wow, she looks great, but that this is my time to practice being authentically me so that I can attract someone who wants me for me. Because if I pretend like I don't drink at all during the work week ever, then I attract someone who thinks that I don't do that. And then I do, then either I'm going to have to keep up that facade, and then I will be compromising myself and what I want to do and how I feel, or I won't. And then that person will feel like I manipulated them. And so in order to do that, in order to show up as authentically me, I need to accept me, which I feel like I've heard that a million times, but for some reason, this whole experience and my therapy session yesterday and then sleeping on it, I had that realization of like, oh, that's what this means. Like I've always loved myself. I feel confident in who I am, but I didn't realize that there were so many underlying things about me that I did judge. And I'm going to go into what those are shortly. But another example of when I was in my therapist's office is going back to the money. I told her that I do spend money freely, and her reaction, she didn't flinch. Her response was, she said, but you also support yourself and cover your bills, right? And I was like, yeah. And just having that unbiased reaction of like, she didn't care of how much or little or however much I spent, plus having that time to like think of everything that I just told you, I had the realization of, yes, I would like to spend less money, but what if this is me? What if I don't change anything about my spending habits? In fact, what if I am a super spender? Can I accept myself for that? And that's what I journaled on this morning. And when I wrote those words of like, can I accept myself? It felt so freeing to just feel like this is who I am instead of writing it out when subconsciously I want to change that part about myself. Like just for a split second in time, even knowing like this is me and I'm okay with it. Like love it or leave it. And so in my journal this morning, I wrote, who am I? So that's what this whole week has prompted me. I was like, okay, I've been thinking about this whole frugal and spending money situation, but what else? Because there must be other, things about myself that I need to come to peace with in order to accept myself so that I can show up more authentically in my conversations with people with less anxiety about what they think of me. Because I'm so comfortable in who I am, where if I say something about, yeah, I'm drinking a hard cider on a Monday night and they judge me for it, then we're done. And it's fine because I'm a type of person that enjoys a hard cider on a Monday night. So these are all the things that I now, as of this morning, accept myself for. I drink on weeknights currently. I support myself, but also buy anything that brings me joy. I'm a spender. I skip workouts and go weeks without prepping a healthy lunch. I wear leggings a lot. I don't do dishes every night. I keep my place picked up, but it gets messy. I scroll my phone instead of reading at night. I nap a lot. I like buying coffee. It sometimes takes me longer than a week to do my laundry from start to finish. I rarely do my hair and makeup. I like to keep my house warm instead of wearing sweaters. You guys, that came from a profile on Hinge. I forget what the prompt was, but that was his answer. He said, I want a girl who is willing to I can't even get it out, is willing to wear sweaters instead of turning up the heat. So that's not me. We would not be a good match. I like to keep my house warm and I will pay the extra heat bill. Also, I don't make my bed every morning. All those things, some of you guys might listen to that and be like, me too, or, oh, that's silly. But all those things subconsciously, or even very consciously, actually, I judged myself for. And so this morning when I wrote that out, it was just like a place where I can get it out on paper and just say, nope, this is me. They're not flaws. They're not anything I need to fix. It's just me. And it felt amazing. But then I also thought, what else am I that I do like? Because those are things I am also expressing. So that list is, I am also a person who enjoys exercise. I do keep my place picked up. I enjoy traveling and I do it frequently. I never smoke. I have fake plants. That's also something I judge myself for. So that would go on the other list because I no longer do. I can't keep plants alive. So fake plants it is. That's funny. The very next one is, I like to garden. I am a planner and I am organized. I dress up when I go out. I am happy and quirky. I enjoy movies. I believe in universal energy. I'm a hard worker who prioritizes rest. I accept me. Heart. So it was incredible. It was freeing. It feels amazing. But again, I think that this is something that I'm going to need to remind myself on a consistent basis of like, this is who I am and it's okay. And the right people will accept me for it. And so I want to encourage you today to think of any small things that you might judge yourself for and ask yourself, what if that's who you are? What if you don't change that? Can you accept that? Can you embrace that as who you are? And I hope you can. If you can't, that's where I feel like you could have a whole journal entry and work through that. But the goal is to get to a point where you can say yes and be comfortable with that. And like I said previously, the people around you probably already accept you for that, but it's going to feel different. Your connections will feel different when you accept that as well. So I hope that my aha moments were an aha moment for you as well, and that you're able to take this and use it as your own journal prompt at some point this week. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's journal entry. I love connecting with my listeners, so make sure you screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at samantha.s.says so I know you're listening. And don't forget to grab your free training and journal prompts at www.samanthapenkoff.com/podcast.